In Ecuador, the electoral silence is in force as we are hours away from the presidential elections this Sunday. The Palestinian movement Hamas released on Saturday 3 Israeli hostages in exchange for 183 Palestinian prisoners in the latest stage of a ceasefire deal aimed at paving the way for an end to the escalating conflict that began in October 2023. The Civic Council of Popular and Indigenous Organizations of Honduras announces that the Supreme Court of Justice confirmed the conviction of Sergio Rodriguez Orellana for the murder of Berta Caceres. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Ecuador, the electoral silence is in force as we are hours away for Ecuadorians to go to the polls on Sunday's election. Near 14 million Ecuadorians are eligible to vote next Sunday, February 9th, so that they can decide among nominees the best for running the nation's future. These general elections will be held amid instability triggered by political violence, energy crisis, and the accusations against President Daniel Noboa for not being abided by electoral rules. The National Electoral Council announced that the voting process initiated Thursday with the suffrage of those deprived of freedom without fixed sentence. Then it will continue on Friday with the home voting program for people with physical limitations. We are now going live to Ecuador with a special envoy, Jorge Soso, who is on the ground and has all the latest details as we are hours away from the polls openings. Hello, Jorge Soso. Welcome to From the South.
How are you doing, Luis? I'm excited to be reporting from our studios here in Quito, where the city is living a total critical moment, just hours away from the presidential election of tomorrow, Sunday. The city and the country is quiet, absolutely in order. In terms of what's going on throughout the day, I will highlight that, for example, Ecuadorians living abroad are voting. There are about 400,000 and more eligible to vote, but in reality, it's about 51,000 voters, the one who participates in previous elections in the process. Also, we have seen that there is absolutely normality in the distribution of the material to the election. Also, some streets are going to be cancelled, if you want, especially biking lanes are going to be stopped. So there are some streets also that are going to be already under control of the security. Security is being worked throughout the day, so there is not going to be any irregularity in terms of the displacements of the people. There are already, anyway, Luis, and something that analysts makes reference to is at least the concern of the possibility of a fraud. And there are certain specialists that mention that the fraud could be said in 3 stages. Previous to the election day, during the election day, and after the election day. When they're talking about the previous to an election day, they refer to what they call irregularities from the campaign of the president/candidate Daniel Noboa in using the resources of the government of the state in favor of his campaign. Another thing that they believe that is part of what they call a fraud that is taking place before the election tomorrow is that it has been disqualified at least one candidate that is being perceived that for President Noboa could be in a way a contender on the right that could some votes could be taken that day. So that President Noboa has participated in that process, and the reality is that that candidate is not participating. On the other hand, the use of the media is totally in favor of the candidate President Noboa, and that is being perceived as we are going to reach tomorrow in a field that is not level, is absolutely turned in favor of the candidate. So that is one of the things that observers are paying attention, that they say that everything could be expected because that situation is pretty irregular. Officially, the authorities of the voting authority says that about 90 minutes away after the closing of the polls, we're talking about 5 p.m. tomorrow, we are going to have at least the first tendency of the results. So theoretically, we could have by the end of tomorrow night a clear tendency of what's going on. But in reality is that we are perceiving a day in total normality, and so far is the second day of the reflection period that is by law executed, that after the midnight of Thursday took place. So no polls, no political acts, no political activities are being perceived and authorized, and also people cannot, for example, be selling and drinking sort of alcoholic beverages. So we have to wait and see, but in reality, there are, again, 16 candidates. 16 candidates. In reality, it's being perceived that it's only one candidate that represents the progressive movement of like former President Rafael Correa. We are talking La Revolución Ciudadana of Luisa González, that according to many polls looks like the favorite, but also certain polls show in first place President candidate Daniel Noboa. And just to finalize, Luis, there is almost total agreement that no one is going to reach the 50% necessary to win in this first round, or get 40% and 10% difference with the second. So it's pretty clear that here is going to be a runoff, and the runoff is going to be in the month of April. We get back to you now.
Thank you, Gestoso, for updating information. We're going to stay in touch in upcoming news brief to continue talking and analyzing as Ecuador goes in this important election day tomorrow. Let's now take a short break. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Palestinian movement Hamas released on Saturday 3 Israeli hostages in exchange for 183 Palestinian prisoners in the latest stage of a ceasefire deal aimed at paving the way for an end to the escalating conflict that began in October 2023. Israeli captives Levi, Eli Sharabi, and Ohad Ben Ami were transferred to a Red Cross post in Deir al-Balah in the central Gaza Strip to be later picked up by the Israeli Defense Forces. According to the agreement, Israel will release more than 180 Palestinian prisoners, 18 of them sentenced to life imprisonment, 54 prisoners with high sentences, and 111 other Palestinians detained in the Gaza Strip following the Al-Aqsa flood operation carried out by the Palestinian Resistance Movement in October 2023. And the International Criminal Court condemned on Friday President Donald Trump's executive order, which imposed punitive sanctions on the world body after it recently issued arrest warrants against the Israeli Zionist government. According to the executive order, Washington would impose sanctions on ICC officials working on investigations that allegedly threaten the national security of the U.S. and its allies, including Israel. In this regard, the court condemned the U.S. president's imposition, emphasizing that it compromises the impartial and independent judicial character of the body. Likewise, it strongly supported its staff and reaffirmed its commitment to continue to bring justice and hope to to millions of innocent victims of atrocities around the world. In Argentina, authorities evacuated at least 10 towns in the city of El Bolsón due to a major forest fire. Officials from the Municipal Emergency Committee warned that the flames are spreading to the Rio Azul Nature Reserve due to adverse weather conditions that make it difficult to control the fire. In this sense, the authorities asked residents and visitors in the area to travel with extreme caution and follow the indications of emergency teams. On the other hand, local authorities stated that this is the worst catastrophe in the history of the province of Rio Negro. We have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Civic Council of Popular Indigenous Organization of Honduras announced that the Supreme Court of Justice confirmed the conviction of Sergio Rodriguez Orellana for the murder of Berta Caceres. The published document indicated that after more than 6 years of waiting, the plenary of the Supreme Court of Justice of Honduras has confirmed the conviction of Sergio Ramon Rodriguez Orellana, ratifying that he is guilty of aggravated murder of the crime against our sister Berta Caceres, the sentence of 30 years in prison. The plenary has reclassified his responsibility as perpetrator by inducement. It also denounces that Sergio Rodriguez is part of the criminal structure that terrorized the Lenca community of Rio Blanco since 2013 with the intention of imposing the illegal Agua Zarca hydroelectric project for the economic benefit of the Atala Sabla family. His role, disguised as environmental and social manager, was to infiltrate, antagonize, and attack the Lenca community and to monitor and identify the leadership as a target for attack by the Atala's criminal enterprise. Finally, the court demands that the state of Honduras comply with its obligations and prosecute and punish all those responsible for the crime of Berta Caceres and related crimes, as well as respect to the rights of the Lenca people. And the Kennedy administration imposed the unfair blockade against Cuba on February 7, 1962, 63 years ago. The then U.S. president enacted the current blockade in an attempt to overthrow the Cuban Revolution. Later, succeeding U.S. governments have pursued other coercive policies, as the Helms-Burton Act and the inclusion of the country in the states sponsoring terrorism list. All these smothering policies have brought about Cuban economic losses of over $1.49 trillion since 1962. In this regard, since November 24, 1992, the United Nations General Assembly has voted overwhelmingly in favor of removing the blockade against Cuba. In Mexico, the National Museum of Anthropology will host the photographic exhibition Amazonia by the renowned Brazilian artist Sebastião Salgado. It presents 230 photographs that reflects the richness and diversity of the Amazon rainforest, captured over 7 years and 58 expeditions. Salgado seeks to stress the beauty of the Amazon despite the fact that 18% of the ecosystem is lost. The exposition, which will run until May 4, 2025, features an immersive experience that combines lighting, music, and sounds of the jungle, created by French musician Jean-Michel Jarre to accompany the tour. It also includes an accessible section for the visually impaired called Amazonia Touch, which presents tactile photographs in reliefs, an inclusive exhibition that shows the importance of preserving both natures and indigenous cultures. And Cuba is getting ready for the International Book Fair in Havana, an event that will welcome guests from more than 40 countries. The 33rd edition will have South Africa as guest of honor and will pay tribute to Cubans, Virgilio Lopez Lemus and Francisca Lopez Rivera. The event will be held under the slogan, "A Whole Country in Books," from February 13th to the 23rd and will offer around 2.4 million copies. The organizing committee announced that 1,300 novelties will be presented in digital and physical formats, and a new People's Library will be included, as well as various cultural activities to promote literature in the communities. Tributes will also be paid to Fidel Castro and Jose Marti, reaffirming the unity and resilience of the Cuban people. And a film series dedicated to Studio Ghibli, the well-known Japanese animation studio, began in Argentina. The cycle will take place at the Martinelli Municipal Theater in the city of San Fernando, province of Buenos Aires, with 3 admission and open-air screenings every Friday of this month. The exhibition will include 4 films by the famous Japanese director Hayao Miyazaki, co-founder of Studio Ghibli, with audio in Latin and Spanish, which are Porco Rosso, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind Rises, and Kiki's Delivery Service. The event has the intention of bringing Japanese animation cinema closer to the community of San Fernando with proposals created for the whole family. And in Uruguay, the island of flowers is once again the protagonist of the Llamadas Parade, which for 2 days will present more than 50 comparsas to the rhythm of the drums. This exciting and traditional celebration will light up the streets celebrating the essence of candombe, with more than 50 comparsas plus 12 invited comparsas and the drums playing. It is worth mentioning that it is one of the most emblematic and awaited events by the inhabitants of the country. It is celebrated annually, paying tribute to the Afro-Uruguayan traditions and candombe, a rhythm and dance that has its roots in the African heritage. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.